Atomic Habits by James Clear. How tiny changes lead to big results. Welcome back to Wealth, Wisdom, and Insights. Today we're going to break down one of the most powerful books on personal development and habit formation, Atomic Habits by James Clear. This book is a game changer because it shifts the way we think about making changes in our lives. Most of us think success comes from one big leap, but Atomic Habits reveals that it's actually the tiny, seemingly insignificant actions we take every day that create the biggest impact over time. James Clear offers 6 practical strategies on building good habits and breaking bad ones to achieve lasting change. Strategy number 1, the power of 1% improvements. Let's start with one of the most profound ideas from the book, the power of small, incremental improvements. James Clear uses the analogy of improving by just 1% every day. It seems so small, right? But over time, this 1% compounds, and by the end of a year, you're 37 times better than when you started. Imagine you're learning to play the guitar. On day 1, you only know how to hold it. But if you practice just 10 minutes a day, just 1% of your time, after a year, you'll see incredible progress. That's the essence of small, consistent effort. Results that seem invisible at first, but in the long run, they're enormous. Now what if you got 1% worse each day? The opposite happens. After a year, your skills, health, or progress declines dramatically. That's why it's so important to stay on the path of constant, tiny improvements. Strategy number 2, the 4 laws of behavior change. James Clear outlines a 4-step model for habit formation, which he calls the 4 laws of behavior change. Let's explore each of them. First, cue. Make it obvious. Every habit starts with a cue, a trigger that tells your brain to initiate a behavior. If you want to start a good habit, you need to make the cue obvious. Example: if your goal is to drink more water, place a water bottle on your desk where you can see it all the time. The visual cue will remind you to take a sip regularly. James Clear also recommends using a technique called habit stacking. You take a habit you already do, like brushing your teeth in the morning, and add a new habit on top. For example, after I brush my teeth, I'll meditate for 1 minute. This way, your new habit is tied to an existing one. Second, craving. Make it attractive. Habits are driven by cravings. We don't just do things, we do them because we expect to feel a certain way afterward. So to build a good habit, you need to make it attractive. Example: want to exercise more? Pair it with something you enjoy. Maybe you love music or podcasts. Only allow yourself to listen to your favorite podcast while you're on the treadmill. This way, your brain starts to associate working out with something pleasurable, making you more likely to stick with it. Third, response. Make it easy. Most of us fail to build habits because we make them too hard. James Clear explains that to create a sustainable habit, you need to reduce friction. Make it as easy as possible to do. Example: if you want to floss more, leave the floss out on your bathroom counter instead of hiding it in a drawer. If you want to write every day, just commit to writing 2 sentences. James emphasizes the 2-minute rule, which says that you should make any new habit take less than 2 minutes to do. Once you start, the hardest part is over, and you're more likely to continue. Fourth, reward. Make it satisfying. Finally, every habit needs to end in a reward. We're wired to repeat actions that make us feel good. So, if you want a habit to stick, it needs to be satisfying. Example: a great way to make a habit satisfying is through habit tracking. Let's say you want to save more money. Create a simple tracker where you color in a box every time you save a certain amount. Seeing the progress visually is deeply satisfying and keeps you motivated to continue. You could also set up a reward system. Maybe every time you complete 10 days of your new habit, you treat yourself to something small. Strategy number 3, the plateau of latent potential. Now here's where it gets real. Many of us give up on habits too soon because we don't see immediate results. James Clear calls this the plateau of latent potential. It's that frustrating gap between starting a habit and seeing noticeable outcomes. We expect our progress to be linear, but it's not. It's exponential. Example: imagine you're trying to lose weight. You've been eating healthy and exercising for weeks, but the number on the scale isn't changing. It's tempting to quit. But what you don't see is that your body is making internal changes. Your metabolism is improving, and your muscles are getting stronger. After some time, those internal changes will become visible on the outside, and the results will come all at once, like a bamboo plant that suddenly shoots up after years of underground growth. The key? Stay consistent. The results will come, but they often take time to reveal themselves. Strategy number 4, breaking bad habits. Now, it's not just about building good habits. Atomic Habits is also about breaking the bad ones. James Clear flips the 4 laws of behavior change to help us remove those destructive patterns in our lives. First, make it invisible. If you want to stop a bad habit, remove the cue. If you're trying to cut down on social media, delete the app from your phone. No cue, no craving. Second, make it unattractive. Reframe the way you think about your bad habit. Focus on the long-term negative consequences instead of the short-term pleasure. Want to stop smoking? Picture the damage it does to your lungs every time you light up. Third, make it difficult. Increase the friction around bad habits. If you're trying to eat less junk food, don't keep chips in your house. If it's not easily accessible, you're less likely to indulge. Fourth, make it unsatisfying. Add immediate consequences to bad habits. Create a system where your bad habits cost you something. Maybe you set up a rule with a friend where you pay them $10 every time you skip a workout. Strategy number 5, identity-based habits. Perhaps the most powerful idea in Atomic Habits is the concept of identity-based habits. Instead of focusing on what you want to achieve, focus on the type of person you want to become. Your habits should be a reflection of your identity. James Clear says, "The goal is not to read a book. The goal is to become a reader. The goal is not to run a marathon. The goal is to become a runner." When you shift your focus from outcomes to identity, your habits will naturally fall into place. Example, if you want to become more fit, don't just set a goal to go to the gym 3 times a week. Instead, start telling yourself, "I'm the kind of person who takes care of my body." When your identity shifts, the actions that align with that identity, like working out, become easier to maintain because they're simply part of who you are. Strategy number 6, the Goldilocks rule. James Clear also introduces the Goldilocks rule, which states that humans experience peak motivation when they're working on tasks that are just right. Not too easy, not too hard. You want your habits to challenge you just enough to keep things interesting, but not so much that they feel impossible. Example, if you're trying to improve your language skills, don't aim to learn 50 new words a day. Instead, start with 5 or 10, just enough to keep you progressing without feeling overwhelmed. Overall, you should start small, stay consistent, and change your life. Atomic Habits teaches us that big changes don't require big moves. All it takes is showing up every day, even when the results aren't immediately visible. Focus on getting 1% better, make your habits easy and attractive, and embrace the journey. Over time, you'll look back and realize that those small steps have transformed your entire life. So, what's one small habit you can start today that will move you toward the person you want to become?